how to deal with setbacks, a topic that is very important in the mission of this podcast, which is to give people a sense for what it feels like to run a hedge fund. Setbacks are part of the business. Setbacks are they have two big importances. Number one, you have to survive them, and number two, you have to be able to learn from them. Otherwise, you will not do well in this business. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's January 10th, 2021. This is Krim Delco. Today's Sunday. There's no update. I want to talk about setbacks. We had a little bit of a setback in our private life, in our family. Not a big deal, but we were trying to achieve certain things. I don't need to go into details here. And they are not panning out the way we thought they pan out. And it's kind of dependent on some people's talent and ability, on judgment by other people of that talent. So it's a very subjective thing, and therefore very difficult to grasp. But it's a setback nevertheless, because we worked very hard towards achieving certain things, and it looks like we can't produce the results that we thought. For the purpose of this podcast, it really doesn't matter what details, what kind of setbacks we had. I don't want to put people out there and none of that stuff. So I just want to keep it general, because the discussion applies to pretty much anything. You have certain goals, you have certain missions to accomplish. Life, as far as I'm concerned, is about setting goals and trying to achieve them. And if you can't achieve them, that is a setback. The definition of a setback is you cannot achieve a certain goal that you were set yourself out to achieve. So that is a setback. Now, how do you deal with a setback? There's three things I want to point out that I've learned over the years. And first and foremost, it is readjust your expectations. That everything in life, pretty much anything that you experience in terms of emotions, in terms of frustration or joy or whatever it is always a relationship between expectations and reality. And reality is whatever I perceive to be real. I don't want to go into epistemology here too much. Whatever I perceive to be real, and the expectations are where that should be. For example, it has always been my expectations to be successful with Orange Capital Partners. We are now, our CAGR is over 20%. We have made a lot of money for our investors. We're on mission to generate wealth by investing in fundamentally new concepts with new engineering practices and large impact. We're on track to fulfill this mission. So there is not a lot of discrepancy between reality and my expectations. Therefore, my emotional stance towards our business is relatively stable. I have had some expectations in other areas, in private areas, that were not met, and the emotional response is negative. You're disappointed. Disappointed is probably the right word. And I think readjusting the expectations is the first step. You just reset the expectations to what you think you can achieve. Don't be a slacker. Don't be lazy. Don't think, well, I can't do this, so I'm not going to do it. None of that stuff. Go for it. Be aggressive, but readjust your expectations to the point where you have a chance to achieve them. And maybe after disappointing results, it pays to sandbag a bit. Sandbag means, in Wall Street terms, just set your expectations a little bit lower than maybe you think you can really achieve, so you have a good chance to actually succeeding. So this is the first thing, and this is exactly what we're going to do in this private situation that we have. We're going to reset expectations and then try to reformulate our mission, our goals, our means towards that goal, all of these things. Then once you reset expectations, it might take a while to adjust, but once you adjust, it's a perfectly normal process. The second thing I highly encourage people to do whenever you have a setback, it's to go and rethink a little bit about the actual resources that you had, or in general terms, okay, what were the actual things you were doing to achieve that goal? So what was it you were doing? And then try to find maybe discrepancies between what you were doing and achieving the goal. So for example, I'm going to have to be a bit more specific about this private setback, and I apologize to my son for that because I'm putting him out there. He was trying to achieve to be accepted to a very, very high-level soccer team in Texas, and he's not being accepted. So this is what happened. We have a setback, and that's fine, no problem. We're going to readjust. We're going to just shoot for a bit of a lower-level soccer team, still very high level, but not the highest. He was really going for the highest level. And nevertheless, I think life goes on, we will be fine. Here's the point. What were the things that he was trying to do? What were the things that he was actually doing to achieve that goal? Well, number one, he trains. He trains for himself, and he trains with his team. Number two, he was, like I said, he was training with his team. That team, however, had certain shortcomings. People weren't showing up. The discipline is not very high. There's not a lot of hours being put in the training. So therefore, that's already a red flag here. You're not really doing what is necessary to achieve that goal. To some extent, it's not your fault. But nevertheless, you're not doing what is necessary, and therefore you end up not achieving that goal. Third thing is also, you live in a state like California that has extreme harsh conditions right now on people training and playing. So you're not playing, you don't have experience. So out of all these things that you actually are supposed to do to achieve that particular goal, to be accepted in a very high level soccer team, you're barely doing any of the actual things which are necessary. So don't be surprised that you did not succeed. And that makes it a lot easier to set expectations, because now you can reset your expectations to the point where either I'm going to increase my workload to get there, or I'm going to decrease my expectations so it fits my workload. The same applies to a hedge fund. When we started with this fund, we had some successes, and then we had some bad years, some very bad years actually. We invested in bad companies, for example, GoPro or Twitter. And the reason we invest in those bad companies is because the means that the actual things, or the resources and skills and the knowledge and all these things that we put together, particularly the knowledge, the creativity that is necessary to succeed in this business, we were not doing enough, and we were doing the wrong things to achieve the kind of conclusion that would give us the possibility to invest in something that is actually successful. We made mistakes with GoPro. We underestimated their competition. We made mistakes with Twitter. We underestimated how dysfunctional the company is. And I mean, it's even today visible how dysfunctional Twitter is. So we just didn't have the kind of skill set, the principle stack that we have today. Or let me rephrase that. When it comes to our business, what we really did, and this is what I'm very proud of, is we reset our expectations after losing a lot of money and customers. We reset our expectations to be a self-sufficient fund, not a highly successful, but at least self-sufficient. And most importantly, we kept our high return strategy, and we set our workload also to the point where we asked ourselves, well, okay, what does it really take to make high returns? We built a principle stack with 4 books that are the foundation of our principle stack, and we became a lot more orthodox and disciplined about applying that principle stack to our investments. And so far, that's been working extremely well. So it's very important to understand that often the kinds of resources that are necessary, the kinds of assets and resources. So there's the assets that you have, which is your intelligence, the money, the capital, the people you can employ, the trips you can make. Those are assets. The resources are the people you know, your network, your friends, experience. And then there is what I call creativity and knowledge, which is that from there you build new things that haven't been there before. In particular, creativity. This is borrowing on The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch, where he believes that we have this ability. We are a unique species in a sense that we can make something out of nothing, and that's what's called creativity. And that is really what's necessary to make money. For example, we have a new contrarian call, which is the US will not face inflation. The US will actually have moderate inflation with high growth because of the great geographic arbitrage. That is creative, that is new, that is something that nobody's talking about right now. We believe we're the only ones in the market who not just believe in that, but also have formulated the investment thesis in order to take advantage of this idea and generate wealth for our investors. So to summarize, the second important thing after a setback is to go back to the actual things that you were doing, understand your assets, your resources, and the kind of creativity you were applying, and try to find mismatches or things where maybe you should have done this versus that, or that asset was not adequate, you need to acquire a new asset. And when it comes to creativity, it's a little bit more difficult. If you're not creative enough to generate wealth within a certain context, maybe you should then try to find another context. I think the third thing I want to mention about setbacks, and this is maybe a little bit, well, let's just say it. I think you need to find joy in what you do. And when you have a setback and when you have a disappointment, it is almost always the case that you have this, oh my gosh, the world is bad, everything is bad. You need to do the exact opposite. We are able to generate happiness through our own model in our brain. We can think ourselves happy. We can think ourselves purposeful. We can create positive things even in the most negative scenarios. For example, COVID is a very negative thing for most people, even for us. It has brought a lot of pressure in terms of belief in the system, belief in human rights and all that stuff. I think for us, it's also been a source of positiveness. It's shown us that we are able to, for example, generate wealth with very strong companies because they've strengthened during COVID times. It also has given us hope that maybe we can just move to another state like Texas and try new things. Why should we be stuck in our same old thinking when we can go and explore new things? So we're trying to find joy, get the joy back in the process that has given you the setback. Find the joy in the hedge fund business, for example. It is unbelievably important to enjoy what you're doing. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're not going to make money. You can only be the best at something if you enjoy it. And I think joy in what you're doing is the essence of life. It's the essence of productive life. We enjoy, of course, having a family. We enjoy loved ones. That comes innate. But we often, I think, it's the same way. Like you love somebody, you have kids, you love them the same way you should love your work. But we have somehow unlearned that, and throughout the centuries, when people got enslaved and always were fighting for substance and things like that, subsistence, they lost that thinking that even what you do on a daily basis should be the same like loving somebody. It should be something you love. And if you don't have that, you're missing out on a big part of life. I've so many people, well-educated, great people, successful people, that just don't enjoy their work. They don't enjoy their source of income, and that to me it's a sad thing. It really makes me sad. I wish I could help them. I see a lot of people around me that don't have that joy, and I think that's one of the things that a setback can give you. It is the reset and the finding of the joy in what you do, which is the most important thing, and it will take care of all the other things, in particular the score. The score will take care of itself. This is a quote from a former 49ers coach, and I want to apply this to my son's situation now. He needs to reset his expectations, but he also needs to find joy. We need to find environments, places where he can joyfully play the game and just get better at playing the game with joy. This is the best recipe for him to eventually achieve his goals. Thank you.